Hello, everybody. My name is Adam, and this is one of my YouTube channels. I wreck everything, and the reason I'm doing this stream is because that great guy Andrew has been going on at me for months and months and months and months and months to watch Making a Murderer, and I've finally given in and watched it, and it was great. And I must thank Andrew for recommending it, even though I was a stubborn bastard and refused to watch it for about 6 fucking months. Over to you, Andrew.
Yeah, hi, I'm Andrew. I live in the north. I've never seen the sun, and I like playing guitar.
Is that it?
I couldn't be mean today because we've got so much else to talk about. I mean, I could have gone on about all your tendencies, but it's too easy. Yeah. So, guys, welcome to this first episode of Andy. See, Andy, you should be happy. I put your name first. That's how much I value you.
Oh, I didn't even pick up on that. That's very sweet.
Yeah,
that will be incorporated into our wedding vows.
Exactly. I'm making a murderer themed wedding.
That would be a bit. That would be colourful, to say the least. Jesus.
It would be. It would be. I'm definitely coming as Dean Strang. But yeah, welcome guys to the first episode of Andy and Adam Truth Finders. Although just as I was starting the stream, I was like, maybe we should have called it Truth Detectives. It's a bit more edgy. We're going to be. This is going to be kind of thing that's going to span over both our channels. So if anyone's here listening who isn't sub to Andy, sub to his, because it might be like it'll be like a crossover comic books. Where we're going to kind of cover things in different things. Like I think on Andy's channel we'll be a bit more focused than the live streams where we tend to be a bit more drunk. But we're going to be looking into like cold cases, open cases, and yeah, seeing if we can make our own theories, shed some new light, maybe make people think in different ways, or maybe we'll just look on the internet and steal other people's ideas.
Sounds good to me.
Exactly. So, yeah, although this one isn't technically this is technically a closed
It is
case.
a closed case as far as the law's concerned, yeah.
Judith has given us a big thumbs up for Truth Detectives, so I'm going to change that title now so that we don't forget, and that's what we're going to call ourselves for the future.
So, as you probably guessed, guys, I have been having a go at Adam for a very, very long time, and I just basically had to threaten his life to get him to watch it. And did you watch it all in 2 days, or?
I think less than that. Within the space of 24 hours. Well, yeah, maybe over the course of 2 evenings, I watched the whole thing.
And I think maybe just in case there is someone listening who doesn't know who Stephen Avery is, just for the off chance, it's part of the Making a Murderer series on Netflix, which, in my opinion, is probably one of the best, most gripping TV I've ever seen in my fucking life. I went through it all in one day, and I just found it fascinating from every aspect. It was, I just loved it.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. It's very compelling viewing, but part of the reason, I mean, Andy had been on at me for a long time to watch it, but I was aware of this case. I hadn't watched the series, and some of the media that I had read had said that it was filmed from a very sympathetic view of Stephen Avery, and I didn't want to be too biased. I mean, it was quite a few months ago I watched the Brendan Dassey interview. As a lot of you guys are aware, I love watching police interviews, or well, at least listening to them while I'm at work. So I was aware of the Brendan Dassey interview, and I did see kind of the coercion from the police and that kind of thing. But yeah, before we go into any kind of detail as to who exactly, well, we will go into detail about Stephen Avery now, because we're going to set an outline of what happens this series, guys, and there will be, I suppose, spoilers, but it's a true series, so...
I think if you've not watched it and you want to watch it, you can't really listen to this. You will have it spoiled, and I advise you to...
Well, at the same time... If people don't have the time to do that, then I don't think listening to this is necessarily a problem, because everything we're talking about is true. So kind of today, the first episode, I really wanted to get both of us have a talk about the kind of origins and the beginning of this story more than getting into any. This might end up going on a long time because I could talk about this show forever, but we're kind of going to cover like what happens, give you guys a bit of a recap, and explain everything. Well, to our knowledge, which is going to be basically what we've ascertained from the show and a few YouTube videos. But yeah, Stephen Avery was a guy, or is a guy. He is a man now.
What?
What
are you going on about, man? He's a man now.
He's a man now. He's passed the test. No, he was sent to prison for, what was it, 18 years?
I think he was in there for 17 or 18 years before. Was it DNA evidence?
It was DNA evidence then cleared. He was sent to prison for the rape and brutal beating of a woman, Penny Beinstaver or something, Penny Bernstein or something, maybe, I'm not sure, something like that. And even though he had witnesses like queued up around the corner, he was sent down. And eventually, kind of retrospectively, because this DNA came to light, because deliciously someone decided to get the old pubes out and have another look at the pubes. And they found that one of the pubes was to a known sex offender who was known in that area where it had happened. And even though Stephen Avery had all these kind of receipts and these witnesses for shops and places he was that day, the police had still sent him down. And what's something very poignant we need to talk about before we get into like the main meat of
He wasn't a woman, if you're being serious, D'Anzoli, by the way. It was Adam being a dick.
Who?
Sorry, carry on.
Oh, I didn't mean to imply that he was the tranny. I just meant this. You know, he was kind of a young man when he first got sent down, wasn't he?
Well, this is the thing I want to point out. It's nearly 2 years ago since I've seen this. It was Christmas 2015 when it was released on Netflix, and I watched it in its entirety within the first few days it was released, and Adam's just watching it now, so a lot of the finer details have sort of gone through my memory, so you're going to have to kind of remind me of those as we go along, and I'm sure I'll remember.
Yeah, okay, well that's what I kind of want. I'll recap for you to an extent as well, Andy, but yeah, basically the Manitowoc County Police, which is where this guy, Stephen Avery, is from, they sent him down for the rape and the brutal beating of this woman, Penny Bernstein. However, at the time, he was kind of having this issue with his cousin, and I'm not sure, she claimed that he was running out and masturbating on her car as she drove past. And even during this kind of very first interview, and this is like, gosh, when did this happen? The late 80s or 90s? A long time ago. She's claiming that he keeps running out and wanking on her car. And the policeman kind of says, well, what, at 40 miles an hour? Now, I don't want to go into speculating too much about Stephen Avery's character until we get a bit deeper into this, so I'm just going to try and relay the facts to you for the moment. But anyway, his cousin was also married to a sheriff, and they were very good friends, the sheriff and the cousin, who went to the police about, and apparently Stephen Avery, because his cousin was spreading these rumours about him running out and wanking in the street, he one night tried to run her off the road and pointed a gun at her, trying to tell her to stop doing that, stop saying things about him or whatever. Although it's quite contentious what was said during that meeting as to whether he tried to force her into his car or not. But anyway, yeah, he threatened her, and I think that was kind of the end of it. Then she went to the police, and it was not long later when her friend was the officer who went to take statements from this Penny Bernstein, who was raped and beaten. And this was the friend of the cousin of Stephen Avery. And when the lady made the description of this person, she said, "Oh, this sounds like Stephen Avery." And even during this incident, the officer kind of coerced the lady. He kind of said, "Yeah, it's Stephen Avery." And the police arrested him. And he spent 18 years of his life in jail. for a rape that was then proven by DNA much, much later that it wasn't by him, and it was by a known someone who had a history of sexual attacks, sexual violence in that area many years later. However, what was it? It was 5 or 6 years before he was released after the DNA evidence came to light. A Brown County sheriff phoned a Manitowoc, where Stephen was being held, his local sheriff area, phoned them and said he had new news. There was a person in custody who had said that someone else was in jail serving for the rape that he committed, and this person was Gregory Allen. Now, when the DNA evidence came to light, it was Gregory Allen whose pubic hair was found amongst the pubic hairs taken from Penny Bernstein. So the Manitowoc County Police had this information, had been given this information 5 years before, and didn't do anything with it. They made a report on it the day after the DNA evidence came to light. And that's kind of what I want us to focus on today, Andy, and talk a bit about. What do you make of that before we get into the what comes afterwards, really?
You mean them casually dismissing it?
Well,
I mean, the evidence with the phone call. Because the phone call, as I understand it, the phone call came into the police department and they didn't follow it up. Now, one would certainly assume if a phone call came in about a murder case, it would be a priority. However, it isn't totally out of the question that it could get lost within the confines of the office, if you get what I mean. Do you get what I'm saying? It's not.
I do, but I can pull it apart very. I can pull it apart very easily. The phone call was made, and it was confirmed by the Brown County Sheriff that it was made in 2000 or 1998. Let's say I might not have the facts exactly right here, but the report was not made until 5 years later. The report was made after the DNA came to light, proving that he was not the rapist. Oh no, sorry, and I keep saying there was no penetration. I'd like to point that out. But she was brutally beaten by this guy who later turned out to be a well-known offender called Gregory Allen. But the Brown County people tried to make Manitowoc aware of that 5 years before the DNA evidence came. However, Manitowoc made the police report the day after the DNA evidence came out. They made a police report about a phone call 5 years earlier.
Right.
So
these are things that I can't remember because it's been such a long time. But now that you're saying it, it's all coming back to me, and it just we don't want to go into it too much, but it all just reiterates what I believed at the very start when I watched it. And it all ties in with what happened just after he was released. There's obviously, from the series, the police had an issue with Avery and the family. Something to do with the scrapyard and the way that they conducted themselves. It was quite obvious that the police and a lot of other people,
the community
as a whole, had a massive issue with Avery and the family. That was quite evident, and for all the things to have happened that they did is fucking remarkable, and that he's still locked up at this very moment is quite unbelievable.
Well, but we don't know that he's not guilty at the moment, and that's one area I don't want to get into too soon, is the speculation of how this has actually happened. However, I'm trying to set the scene for you here. So this has all happened, and then this guy, he's freed, he's released, he comes home, and he's offered a settlement. And I think originally the settlement for his 18 years falsely imprisoned is less than $25,000 per year. Now he's offered that, and it's of $400,000 in total. However, people find out about this. The Avery bill is being pushed so that the whole justice system is reformed, so that other people aren't falsely imprisoned, information is never withheld again. So you've got the people in the community, the police, local police that don't like him, and yet this guy's walked free. Well, he's not. I mean, he didn't deserve. For sure, we know he didn't do this original crime in the first place. He's walked free, and lawyers are saying, well, he deserves a lot more money with that, and they're saying the settlement should be between $1 million and a potential $38 million, $2 million for every year he's been in prison.
Which would sort of, I mean, just as a sort of response to that, 400,000, I'd be insulted if that was me.
18 years of your life gone from when you were, what, 23? That's, your whole youth gone.
Yeah, no amount of money would ever bring back what you've lost, because you've lost virtually the best years of your life. However, what would certainly try and get some of that back is if you had enough money to do whatever the fuck you wanted. So a few million, I would suggest at least.
Well, yeah, well, it could have been any. However, right before this is going into its kind of final stages for the settlement, and I need to point out, because I think this is a very important thing in this case, is the insurance companies pulled out now. These, the police, they had, they're insured out of their arse, but due to the nature of it, the insurance companies said they won't pay out. So if Stephen gets what he's, we're saying at the very minimum $1 million, but it's much more likely to be the higher end of the scale, $38 million. The insurance companies aren't going to cover this. This now has to be covered by the sheriffs and the Manitowoc County Police Department.
So the town, in other words.
Yeah.
So they were going to have to pay out a fucking huge amount of money. Yeah, and that's the pivotal point of the. Well, not the pivotal. Well, yeah, I suppose it is the pivotal point of the whole case, as far as I'm concerned.
Right, and as this case. Sorry,
you've got two possibilities. Do you not mind me steaming ahead, or did you want to take it easy?
No, go steam ahead.
So you've got two possibilities at this point. You've got Stephen Avery, who knew he was in for a massive windfall, decided to, for some unknown reason, murder someone. And potentially waste the rest of his life and not get his windfall, which would seem illogical. Well, it is illogical, but it's not impossible. Someone could do that if they were psychotic. And there's no evidence to suggest he was. He didn't rape that woman, and he's never murdered anybody, as far as we know.
Well, let's, I guess, I don't want to steam ahead too much, but in regards to the rape, I mean, everyone throws around this word rape in this case. There's no evidence of a rape whatsoever.
No, sorry, I meant on the original victim that he was accused of.
Oh, the original. Well, she was sexually assaulted.
Yeah, well, this rape, sexual assault, But what I'm trying to say is, he's allegedly a murderer, according to the law. Well, there's no other. What I'm trying to say is, it seems unlikely just because. What I'm trying to say is, they painted him as the psychotic murderer. There's no evidence to suggest he is. He's never murdered anybody, as far as we know. So, as I said, the two possibilities are that he's a psychopath and he can't help but kill women, even though he's never done it before, and he did it at the most stupidest time ever that you can imagine. It's not impossible, but seems pretty out there. The other possibility is that Manitowoc, who are seething with rage against this guy for having the audacity to prove his innocence, they stitch him up with a murder. Now,
well, let's go back and have a look at what happens next, because we kind of explained exactly up until, he's waiting to get this money. Now, as this happens, and I think this is much more poignant, and it's something that doesn't get mentioned very much. This is Halloween. So it's October the 31st, 2005, I believe.
Okay.
So, and I think this, maybe it's a bit conspiracy theorist, but the date comes into play a lot more. But obviously, we'll come back to that when we come onto our theories. So, this lady who works, and Stephen Avery, him and his whole family, they live on a auto salvage lot. So you'd probably, they're people that sell cars all the time, have all kinds of cars passing through. So he does phone, and this is confirmed, and request that the same girl who came out last time comes to photograph his car. Now, she's supposedly the last stop that he has before she disappears for a few days, and then no body is actually found. But the police state that they find... And I can't even just kind of trying to explain... I'm trying to do it as factually as possible, but it's almost impossible to do it without kind of saying, look how much has been planted here. But so... Because once we start...
Adam, do you mind if I interrupt you?
Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask a question. I wanted to do it before. Is there anybody listening now that hasn't seen Making a Murderer?
There was a few people that mentioned it at the start of the stream that they hadn't seen it.
Sorry, I was just interested to know, because obviously... Sorry to interrupt your full flow there, madam. Can you remember where you was up to?
Yeah, no, so we were literally talking about... So this girl, Teresa Holbach, she went... Apparently her last stop, and then she disappeared, which was on Halloween around 3 p.m, was at the Avery's place to photograph his sister's van to sell. And he had left, apparently, his sister's contact details because it was her. Now, whether that's suspicious or not, I guess is something we'll come back to speculate on at some time. And yeah, so anyway, this girl's found dead. Now, this is where we need to bring in a couple more characters into play, and that is of Mike Hilligas and no, is it Mike Hilligas or is it Mike Halbach?
Jesus.
Jeez, I need to bring up some kind of family tree. Okay, well, Teresa's brother and her mate kind of come into play during this, because during one of the search parties that Teresa's ex-on-off boyfriend is the head of, a woman called Pam Sturm finds the car on the Avery's parking lot. Now, I would suggest anyone in the chat, you go and check out the pictures of the Avery's car. I'm sorry I've not put it in the slideshow I've made. This is all just kind of the major players. But the car's kind of sort of loosely covered with some boards and branches and things. It's a little bit odd. And Pam Sturm, if you don't know about her, she's actually a private investigator and was related or married to a detective. I'm not sure if I don't think it was of Manitowoc County, though, a different county. So they find the car, and this is when things start to get a bit strange, because the DNA evidence that is found is only his blood in the car, and the Calumet County Sheriff's Office say they're due to conflicts of interest, because he's got this case going for he spent 18 years in prison for a rape that we know beyond reasonable doubt he didn't commit. Because of this, the Calumet County Sheriff's Department are going to be handling this case. However, every piece of evidence that's then found and brought forward, such as the car key found in Stephen Avery's trailer, is found by Manitowoc County Police, who aren't even meant to be on the scene, and especially the guy you can see on the slideshow now, James Lenk, who was very heavily involved with the previous case. He was kind of the guy that gave the order not to make the report about the rape when they got the first evidence 5 years earlier that it could have been done by someone else. So although I'm trying to say this factually, guys, even as it comes out of my mouth, I'm like, it really looks like the police trying to fuck someone over, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I remember... I can't reiterate enough how entertaining and engrossing I found it. But what is hitting home yet again now, because it's so long since I've seen it, and me and my sort of buddy at work were talking about it non-stop when it came out. It was like the topic of conversation at lunch for months, and then sort of forgot about it. But hearing it again now just reiterates how farcical the whole situation was and how crazy I don't want to jump too far ahead because we wanted to take it step by step. But
Yeah.
if you look at everything, and we've only mentioned the first few points because you're trying to go for it chronologically, which is a good thing. We've only mentioned the first 2 points, and already it sounds too ridiculous to even be remotely true, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And the amount of evidence as you go further through the case that stinks of corruption, especially with regard to the blood that was in the car, and we'll go into that later, it's fucking ludicrous to suggest that it isn't corrupt. Put it this way, if there's no dodgy... If you worked out the odds, statistically speaking, of each of these questionable events that's happened in this case, for it to all be a coincidence, the odds would be astronomical. If you worked it out, if you went to a bookmaker's and they calculated the odds and said, right, that looks suspicious, but there's nothing in it. Right, that looks suspicious, and then they went on and on, you would be talking hundreds of thousands to one, if not millions, that there's not something dodgy.
Oh, no, I think something we can say 100%, even if Avery is the murderer, there's some kind of foul play at work here. I mean, it literally could be anyone, and that's what makes this case so curious and so interesting. Like, who really had I mean, and the one
Well, we know who had the motive. Were you going to say who had the motive then?
But
the only person that we've... I mean, obviously we've not gone into full detail, but you're talking about... I don't know what the bank balance of Manitowoc County was at the time, but
it's
we've already
probably not
uncovered
36 million, yeah.
We've already uncovered that they would have had to fork out millions.
Yeah.
Millions.
From their own pockets.
And then suddenly, what is the only thing that, besides killing Avery, that would have stopped him from claiming that money? He eventually reached a settlement, and as I remember it, it was just enough to cover his legal costs.
Exactly, it was the 400 grand, and that's why it's so perfect. It was literally like, this is going to leave you with no more money. It will just drain you through the legal system until you have no more money, and then you're fucked. Like, that... Yeah, the police had the biggest motive in this whole case. If you look at it and that's maybe something that people overlook to a huge extent, is like, we go, oh, well, the police, they're good guys. But you watch the interviews with these guys, and they, except for the exception of this guy on the screen, fucking Colborne, he's a wet blanket. But they act as if they're like fucking mafia or something.
Oh, of course. I mean, the arrogance that some of these people display, it sickens me. To this day, I mean... It's interesting to get into the mindsets of these people because, you know, there's no point in me saying no. I can't say for certain whether I believe that the police murdered Teresa Halbach, but as we both said, Adam, I think we both totally 100% agree that they tried to stitch him up, regardless of whether he did it or not. But what confuses me is, let's just say, hypothetically speaking, that he did murder Teresa Halbach, right? And then they found out about it. All their prayers would have been answered. It would have been like a gift from heaven to them. They were like, brilliant, that guy who we hate is going to get sent down. We don't have to fork out the money, and we don't even have to answer for the fact that we locked him up for 20 years. You know, so that is by the by, because he's a murderer. So no one will care. So why would they then need to go out of their way to provide evidence that he did it if he did it anyway? Why would they need to do that? Which they clearly did.
Well, this is where the story becomes incoherent, because you're like, did he kill her, and they were trying to make sure it couldn't be...
Yeah, because Melina said there in the chat, they planted extra evidence to drive the screw him further, and that's originally what I thought, but would they really... Look at it, think about yourself in that position. If you work for that, if you were head of that police department, or the town mayor, or whatever, and Teresa Halbach turned up dead on his property,
right,
would you then order your people to go around and plant evidence?
Well, no.
Well, there you go. So why would they do it? They just let it. They'd say, right, he's done it. We know it's him. It was on his property. It's only a matter of time until the truth is found out. But they didn't find any truth.
Well, no, and that's before, because I think we're moving into the blood and the DNA. I think we're going to get into our theory. So I think before we do that, because I think we're going to cover a lot, as long as you're not too tired, Andy. I'm quite happy to make this quite an epic
No,
stream getting into this, but I think we should bring up Brendan Dassey. And
I've not been very well today, so I apologise if I sound a bit lackluster, everybody. But I've not slept for like over 24 hours, so I'm just having a couple of drinks, and hopefully I'll get a bit sleepy soon. But so did you were saying before we started, Adam, because you're very bossy, but you wanted to sort of. You didn't want to go too far in this video with regard to.
What I want, even I think what we both need to do, and I think even for me to an extent, because this program's so compelling, and if you get into YouTube about it as well, there's theories and videos all over the place about it. And I think what I want to do is be able to at least draw my own conclusion and say I'm happy with that. And I think that's kind of going to be our aim with the Truth Detective series. It might not necessarily be what's right, but we can come down and sort of say, okay, this is the best scenario from all the work we've done looking into this. So today we might cover some of our theories and that sort of thing, but we'll have an episode where we both go away, a period where we both go away and come back and think about it more. But it might be that we end up making 16 videos doing that.
Yeah, true. So let's just go into whatever, sort of whatever transpires. We can go into it in more detail later, can't we?
Yeah, of course.
Well, I mean, Christ, the Brendan Dassey interview is just another aspect of how ridiculous it is. That poor lad, we're talking about a guy, was he actually diagnosed with any medical condition? Did he have autism? Or
no, but he had an IQ of 70.
So it's fair to say that he had severe. Would you say severe learning difficulties is a
severe might be a bit much. I would say he had learning difficulties.
Right. So we have.
It wasn't so much. It wasn't, I guess, what you would call autism, but what I think Brendan had was more like a crippling shyness, what a lot of kids around 16 have. And he didn't really have lack of confidence and not really an understanding. Someone who has that,
not a good communicator.
Exactly. And the thing is, and I think at some point we'll need to do this, and it might be more for your channel, but actually watch the Dassey interview and from beginning to end, because the clips they do show you in the series of Making a Murderer, to be fair, does manipulate it. I've watched that interview separately of the show itself, like in its entirety, and there are some bits where I'm kind of like, where the fuck did that come in from in his mind if he didn't see anything at all?
I must admit, there are parts of that interview where I'm thinking, if it's not true, how did he come up with it? And also, there was, we'll stick to Dassey, but there was someone else who, I think a cousin of Avery's, who confessed that Dassey told her
Kayla.
He murdered her.
That was Kayla.
Kayla Marie.
Not Kayla Marie, Kayla, I don't know. One of their surnames. The family's got about 1 million surnames. Because the thing is with their family, and to be fair, because I looked into this, like someone will marry into the family and they'll then divorce that person. They'll marry another one of the men in the same family. It was a little bit close knit, shall we say?
First, Mrs. R, hello by the way, has just said that it was worse than teenage shyness, and I agree.
It was. I wouldn't. He's not autistic, but he definitely had difficulties, and someone like that should not be put under that kind of intense pressure by the police.
Just for anybody that isn't aware, Dassey was interviewed by one cop in a room,
2
on camera. No, the majority of the interrogation was one cop.
Was it? I thought it was Vega and Fassbender.
Well, you've seen it more recently than
Yeah,
I did.
it's one of them does the
memory,
majority of the talking, but there's two of them there. And
right, I
there's
wasn't aware of that.
if
I
you
thought,
watch this series again, I mean, the clips they take, it does manipulate it and make you feel really sorry for him, but they're very poignant, the parts they do take, because there's one point where he kind of says, oh, you had sex with her or something like that, doesn't he? And he goes, and then the policeman goes, yeah, you're nodding, aren't you? And he's kind of, and he in that moment, you can almost see for a second he's pleased to have got one of the answers right. He doesn't have a clue really what
no,
he's talking
it's
about.
like it was like a little game to him. And do you know what? This is the bit that highlights. Coming back to me now. This is the bit that highlights for me about when Brandon Dassey was interviewed. Just to give an overview to everybody, Dassey was interviewed by two. I thought he was one by two cops with no one else supporting him in the room. No solicitor, lawyer, no one on his side. In England, if that interview was to take place now, he would have to have what's called an appropriate adult, someone independent of the police, to act on his behalf to make sure the interview was conducted fairly. It would be on tape in a formal setting. There would be a desk, a tape recorder, and there was none of that. They was in a room. They were sat on chairs. There were two cops interrogating him, basically trying to convince him of what they wanted him to. It was like fucking scandalous to watch, almost stomach churning.
It was like
what highlighted it. Sorry, Adam. What highlighted it for me was at the end when he eventually confessed and said, "Yes, that's what happened. He killed him. Can I go home now?" He said,
yeah,
because he thought
like he
that
got the right
naive
answer.
and that childlike in his beliefs. He thought that when he said yes, he did it, that would be it and he could go home. He didn't realise that he would have been an accessory to murder. So that, to me, says there's a very strong possibility that he just said it because he was coerced into it, and then he thought it'd all be over and he could go home.
Oh, I think a lot of, but if you go back and actually watch the whole interview, there's a lot more to it than the clips that are shown in Making a Murderer. And he says some quite random things, and I don't know if they're just coming like out of his mind, like a idiot savant of some kind, or if it does kind of prove to an extent that maybe there was some involvement. But the thing, like the bit, and it's very poignant in the show where because they know at this point they've got evidence. Apparently, she's been shot in the head, and what they needed was for Brendan to confirm he'd seen her being shot in the head. And they literally go, something happened, something with her head. And he goes, yeah, we cut her hair off. And they go, no, not that. And he goes, we slit her throat. And they go, no, not that. And he goes, I don't know then. And the policeman literally goes, you shot her in the head, or who shot her in the head? And he's like, oh, he did. And it is like, to an extent, to him, it's just a guessing game of like,
it's leading.
Yeah.
It's leading. They're basically leading the witness, which is what they say in a court of law. You're leading the witness, and it would be wrong for an adult, but to do it to a child in that situation who's scared, frightened, and confused. There's books about psychology and all kinds of things that say that in the right circumstances you can pretty much convince anybody of anything if they're put under the right pressure. We all know that, and that would seem to be the situation there. And his testimony was key as far as the case goes. His own cousin basically said that he saw. Did he say he saw him murder Teresa Halbach?
Yeah, he said he assisted and helped clean up. And there's something very weird if you watch the whole interview, which wasn't in the Making a Murderer series. And I'm trying to, because I've gone back to the beginning, if you watch the first kind of 3 episodes, they're the most, it gets a little less sympathetic, I would say, as it goes through. But the first 3 episodes, but there's something he says when you watch the whole Dassey interview about cleaning the floor and how paint stripper would be good for it. And it's very, I'm like, but then kind of today I was thinking about it and I was like, I really don't, personally, and I don't think Stephen Avery did this, or if I just, there's too many, that's my personal perspective right now, and it might change, but it's all too fucked up. But where did this thing about the paint stripper being good to clean a floor come from? in Dassey, Brendan, in this kind of very slow mind. But then I suppose he spends all his time on a junkyard. Maybe they've cleaned up oil stains, and they've said, "Oh, paint stripper will clean anything."
Yeah, it's possible.
I don't know.
I don't remember that bit, if I'm being honest.
And the thing is, it's not even like I want to think he's innocent, because the thing is, if he is innocent, then it's such a huge miscarriage of justice. But now we're getting into the ethics of it, and I'm trying to avoid the ethics for now anyway.
He's got to be. All the evidence would suggest he's innocent, but it's this thing. The one thing that gets me is, and we even mentioned it. I think it was the first thing that you said to me after you watched it was, if Avery didn't kill her, who did? And that was always the main question for me as well, because two possibilities. Well, there's not two, but here's two of the main possibilities for me. Number one, the police department or Manitowoc murdered her. Or someone within the police department who was autonomous did it so that there was no trace back to them to try. You get what I mean?
Or someone, a third party, did it, and Manitowoc went, "Don't worry about this."
Well, that's that was what I meant, but I think I said it in a bit of a different way. So, in other words, they were involved in it to a massive degree. The other possibility is that, for the fact that he didn't do it, is that someone else did it who we don't know of.
Well, we've been on the subject for well over 40 minutes now, so I think we can start bringing a few of the other players into this tableau that we're trying to paint for everyone. And we've got so much deeper to go yet, but let's talk about the ex who took to trial and apparently found her Wi-Fi password. Or not Wi-Fi, was it? He got her phone records by guessing her username and guessing her password.
Sorry, you'll have to go into that, Adam. I don't remember that. What's this from?
This is the Ryan Hillegas fella. You can see him on the screen right now.
I thought that was Sergeant Colburn, isn't it?
No, that's Hillegas.
Oh, sorry, I'm a bit delayed.
Okay, he's gone already. But that was Hillegas, and he's the guy that's filmed at the search party the day they find the vehicle with this guy right here, Mike Holbach. They're filmed together that day. Now, Hillegas says he gets into her voicemails, and because he guesses her username and password, and they speak to the people from Singular Wireless, that's Singular with a C, who he says he gets in and it says the voicemail box is full, but Singular say that day the voicemail box could not be full. Now, it's very curious as to why this guy can magically hack his way into someone's voicemail box and why he did, but yet even during the series it's not particularly deeply questioned.
No, there's a lot of poignant. What's that word?
Poignant.
Points, situations.
A lot of poignant points.
Poignant points that are not explored deeply enough, not through any fault of the producers or director of the show, but because there isn't enough time, and you've just highlighted one there. And that's only one small part. The most incredible aspect of the whole series for me. Do you not mind me jumping ahead to that?
No. I think we're opening up into the more. We've kind of. I hope people in the chat appreciate. I think we've explained it to the best we could. It's kind of difficult not to just throw in your own theories and opinions. But yeah, I think it's time to expand our horizons.
Yeah, it's difficult to talk about it and keep it basic and not go right ahead and just start waffling on. I'm trying to, give it a bit of a flow. But the one part was that Teresa Stephen Avery's blood was found in Teresa's car. Yeah.
Yeah.
one part of, one spot of blood, one fucking spot of blood
Oh
was
no,
found in.
there was a mark, and I think this is
Yeah, but it was a very small amount, wasn't it?
there was a mark by the ignition, which looked kind of realistic, like someone might have, if they had a cut knuckle, they would have wiped blood there.
Yeah, that's right. And the point was that it's uncovered within and anybody who really does want to watch this, you're going to have to turn away now because you'll be spoiling the best bit. They found a blood vial of Stephen Avery's blood that was no doubt taken from when he was first arrested. And there was a seal on the blood vial that was broken that said "do not break." And it appeared that a needle had been used to extract the blood. And as soon as I saw that, I've never watched TV in my life and been so shocked. It was like so unbelievable. I was like, at that point, I thought, this is it. He will get off now. It's quite clear that they've planted the blood in the car. Because you're like, why would that veil be opened? It was just the right amount of blood to plant it in the car. It all made sense. It was like ludicrous because, that was the most jaw-dropping, literally, moment for me, Adam. I mean, do you agree?
I agree. Cinematically, definitely during the series it was. However, from what I would like to try and find out, I think the blood being taken from there, or whether, I mean, we're talking about a salvage yard. If they wanted to get DNA and stuff from him, it's easy enough. It's all over the fucking place. These guys are working with scrap metal every day there.
A decent amount of blood. Don't forget, yes, blood traces, DNA traces, but we're talking a decent quantity of blood to smudge on a plastic surface. That's not, you can't go up to him and say, "Hello, Stephen, we're that police department that got you screwed over for 20 years. Do you mind if we have some of your blood?" Yeah, there you go.
Well, if that's the thing, but then I've also read that sometimes they place the blood in those vials through a hypodermic needle from the outside without taking the lid off.
And now we're getting into the very finer points of the blood, and the first Mrs. Ira has mentioned it. That blood in it, that blood had a preservative in it from the vial, but there was no preservative in the blood found in the car. Now, at that point during the trial, I started to get a little bit confused.
Well, that's when we're talking about the EDTA, right?
Yeah. But it didn't wash for me. It just didn't. I'm not interested in preservatives this and preservatives that.
Well, I like strawberry preserve.
Shut up. You can... They got that many scientists up to say that much stuff. It got so fucking blurry, the line between which was the correct type of blood and which wasn't, that ultimately it just seemed very deliberately misleading to me. That was the impression that I got. Of course, I may be wrong.
Yeah, that's why I think when we're looking into this ourselves and trying to do our detective work, we can kind of discount the blood to an extent anyway. I think everything with the car itself is contentious. Well, I think the whole thing is contentious, and the only way... I'd love to get fucking character statements from Brendan's friends at school. I just don't know. I mean, the thing is, they look like, people would say things about the family that lives on the junkyard, wouldn't they? They would be natural. Rumours would spread about those kind of people. And they don't, and this is talking from a very kind of personal standpoint, but they don't seem like bad people, neither Stephen or Brendan. That's just, and I could be completely wrong. My human barometer could be off.
He overtly psychotic tendencies, Avery, although apparently he battered a cat to death.
He put a cat in a fire when he was young, which is pretty fucking disturbing, but...
Yeah, I'm just going to have to... Do you want to just keep talking? I'm just going to...
Yeah, you go. I need to nip to the loo once you get back. Sorry, this is the problem with doing streams whilst chatting. Well, yeah, guys in the chat, I hope if you haven't seen it, do check out this series. It's quite an interesting Well, it's a very interesting topic, and I think even today, even we're kind of talking about our very basic conspiracy theories at the moment, but there's so much more to go into. Oh, strawberry jam and peanut butter on toast ham. No, even better, right? Oh, if you, it's disgusting but beautiful. If you can make yourself an Elvis Presley sandwich. I hold the banana in mine, but you can put banana in if you want. But it's a fried peanut butter and strawberry jam sandwich with 4 rashers of bacon. Well, I believe Elvis had like a whole pack of bacon, but I only ever stretched to 4 rashers of bacon because it's a bit much. So yeah, if you ever have the opportunity, do try an Elvis sandwich. You have to eat it with a knife and fork 'cause it's greasy as fuck, but oh, it's beautiful. Named after, of course, the great Elvis Presley, and apparently, I think it might have been the sandwich he died on the toilet eating.
I'm back.
Excellent. I've been talking about the Elvis sandwich, so you can take over while I go for a quick slash.
You're talking about the what?
The Elvis sandwich.
The Elvis sandwich, right? I have no idea what he's going on about. So I'm just going to go through the comments until we get back, and then we'll start talking about it. So is there anybody in the chat now? Because I know a few people have said that they've not watched it. Is there anybody that is going to go now and go and watch it, even though we virtually spoiled it for you? It's a bit of a shame, really, because you've kind of been, if you've been watching this, listening to this without watching the series, you deprive yourself as a bit of just a fantastic piece of television, really. There's actually a new one coming out on Netflix actually today. Was it today? Yeah, tomorrow. That's called The Confession Tapes, which I'm going to watch if anybody's got Netflix. Which is supposed to be about, it's kind of linked to this, about people who were coerced by the police into confessing to crimes that they never did. Well, so they say. I only saw the trailer and it looks great. It's right up our street. Yeah, I have to watch it. Drat YouTube. Well, you will enjoy it, trust me. It's a fantastic piece of entertainment. It really is. Let me just take another drink of my beer. And
So I'm back to carry the load.
Yeah, so where were we up to anyway before we'll be
I-
talking about the fact that Star Wars Episode 9 has lost.
We're not fucking talking anything about Star Wars
Christ,
ever.
You're such a grumpy bastard.
I don't want to talk about Star Wars. It's not interesting. It's just.
Oh my god.
We're not going to get into that. We've had enough talks. You know my feelings on Star Wars, and you've respected them until now. Let's not make a song and dance live. I want to put you on the naughty step.
Fair enough. How was the slash, Adam?
Oh, it's very necessary. It was, yeah, textbook. So, right, let's throw some shrimps on this barbecue. And in fact, this man, he's just gone, but the man you were just looking on the slideshow there, Ken Kratz, if the stream's slightly delayed, you'll still be looking at him right now, but he was the prosecutor during the trial. And we need to talk more about that, but I haven't got to those episodes yet. So in a way, it's kind of good that only the first 3 are fresh in my head, even though I've seen them all.
Oh yeah, have you told everybody you're watching it for a second time within space of a week? And this is a series it's took me 6 months to talk you into watching.
Yeah, okay, yeah, but it's very. I mean, the thing is, you can obtain so much information from it. I'm trying not to allow it to make me become biased, but it's a case I want to look at and I want to solve, or I at least want to come to a foregone conclusion about it. Or not a foregone, at least a conclusion. Like, yeah, I mean, honestly, there's so many theories about so many things what could have happened, but there's something that all of us armchair detectives are missing, and only one mind, the most brilliant mind in.
How do you know that we're all missing something? Why isn't it as simple as someone connected to Manitowoc murdered her?
Well, then
It's not. It's not totally unfeasible.
it's not, no. But then they need to be unearthed. Something needs to be found against them.
But it won't happen because the level of corruption would go so deep because a lot of people would have to be involved in it. It's a little bit like conspiracies of the government and how corrupt they all are. It would, to uncover them would be too horrific to too many people. And it would ruin a whole part of even a state of America.
Oh, fuck them. Like,
No, I agree with you. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying it won't happen.
Yeah, a lot is to do with this bastard on the screen right now as well, Andy Colborne. He called in the number plate of the car 2 days before it was found.
That's right.
There's so many fishy things going on here. It's ridiculous. But I don't know if we've been going nearly an hour, so I don't know if we're going to cover much more. I think you need to rewatch it again, Andy, so that we can speculate after each episode.
Yeah, the plan is, and as Terry's quite rightly pointed out, we don't really have the time, but for me to go back and watch the episodes again and then talk about each one and then in a bit more detail.
I'll be honest, my playing PlayStation has been sacrificed for watching this, and I am a bit sad.
Well, unfortunately, I've just bought Destiny 2 today, so that's another sort of...
Any good?
Yeah, well, I've only played like half an hour so far, but yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the original one, but this is supposed to be better. I mean, if you like running around on planets shooting aliens, then, you can't really go wrong.
What is it, an RPG
It's a first-person shooter, sci-fi first-person shooter.
Not my cup of tea.
Well, it's not, it's not for everybody, but I do certainly enjoy it. Yeah, so, I mean, I don't think we've quite exhausted the main topics of making a murderer yet.
Oh no, we've got a lot more to go into. I think even with the few theories we've come up with today, we've still barely taken any meat off of that bone yet. I think we've got to get deep into this and try. I'm gonna solve this. I'm gonna fucking find out, or it's gonna drive me mental.
I think there's a lot of people, even Stephen Avery is a bit more mental than you will be. So imagine how he feels sitting in his fucking jail cell. Did you know, Adam, that about a year ago, Brendan Dassey was released on a pardon from prison?
No.
And then he got admitted back again.
How did that happen?
I don't know how he was taken back, but I do know that when he was released, it was because of the circumstances regarding his conviction, and it was all seemed to be ridiculous. I think it might have been something to do with his interview, or if you want to call it an interview, his apparent confession. I don't know about the technicalities, but I do know that he ended up going back inside. I don't think it was because he reoffended, though.
Oh, wow.
That's an interesting part of the case.
That's something we need to look into further and get the facts on, and then relay it to our loving community.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, people in the chat have asked if we're going to be looking at other cases, and certainly. But
we've even got a couple in mind.
What are you going to remember about this case is that it's got a fucking Netflix series.
Yeah.
So it's a lot easier for us to go into detail about it, and other people can look at it. We can look at other cases, but it means us doing a lot of reading, and a lot of other people doing a lot of reading as well. So it wouldn't be as widely popular. Do you understand what I mean?
That, I suppose, would be true. However, like one of the other cases we plan to look at, there's been quite a few movies made around. So these are going to be quite high-profile things that we look at. I think people are going to enjoy it. But, of course, again, we're no different to anyone else sleuthing away from your own armchair.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a bit of fun, isn't it? To come up with theories and see what we think and see what other people think. It's just You know, and we love that. You know, we're here because of a common interest that got us to meet each other was TCAP, and we're all interested in true crime and the darker aspects of humans, and that's what all these things are about. Especially this case as well. I mean, the corruption that must have taken place here is fucking unbelievable.
Absolutely, and that's. But we need to. I think the plan for the next one, we should have a look more into the darker aspects, and we should have a look more at the other characters, because we've gone quite deep into we've gone quite deep into Stephen and Brendan. But we should have a look at some of the other players on the scene and some of the.
You like the cops?
The cops, exactly.
Sergeant Colborne.
Yeah, definitely. Because he's got a few things to explain.
He's a dodgy motherfucker, that guy. There's no doubt about that.
He looks like he's always going to cry on the witness stand, though. And then I've got, there's Ken Krantz, the sexting man.
It's all coming back to me now with Celine Dion once sang.
But yeah, I think we've done an hour, so, and it's 1 a.m. here, so I think we'll wrap it up there. But
yeah, should we say goodbye to everybody?
We should. Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining me, Andy.
We've enjoyed it, haven't we? And I hope, guys, that you've enjoyed it. Wallace has just said, I hope that the lawn shit is over. I mean,
well, he said he preferred this over the lawn shit.
Oh right, okay, yeah. I mean, lawn's still an interesting topic, but it's definitely probably a good thing to give it all a break.
Yeah.
I just hope you've all enjoyed it, and we're going to go into this a bit more because me and Adam within the last couple of days was quite passionate about it, if you will, and so am I. You know, I mean, why wouldn't you be? So it's definitely something we both want to cover a bit more, isn't it?
Exactly. I think there's plenty. I think kind of the thing that brought us all together is our interest in crime, criminal minds, psychology, and I mean, the thing everyone wants to do is solve the case. That's why I think these will be a lot of fun, these streams. But obviously, guys, I haven't expected too much from the truth detectives this evening. We're literally just fluffing the muff today.
Fluffing the muff?
Yeah, you know.
It's a great way of putting it.
Exactly.
I don't know what you've been doing, but I've been drinking here, lying on my sofa, watching the screen and talking into microphone, but it sounds like you've had company.
No, what I'm saying is, it's, you know, today we fluff the muff. Maybe in 6 or 7 episodes' time we'll finally penetrate.
Fair enough. Great way of putting it.
Yeah.
Have you noticed how all Adam's metaphors ultimately lead to some kind of sexual innuendo?
Well, you know what they say about people who say a lot of sexual innuendos.
They never get any?
Yeah, that. Exactly. Right, guys. Yeah, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for joining me, Andy.
Yeah, cheers. Thank you. It's been good.
All right, take care, everyone, and we'll see you for the next episode of Truth Detectives soon.
Yeah, I can't wait.